She thought she was breaking free. But when she said, "It's over," he decided, if he couldn't have her, no one could. The story begins in quiet suburban Michigan, a place where the lawns are trimmed neatly and neighbors wave from their driveways. The kind of place people move to because they believe bad things happen elsewhere. Our victim, Rachel Donovan, was 27 years old. A second-grade teacher with a smile that seemed to reach everyone in the room. Her friends described her as the type of person who remembered the little things. The kind of person who wrote handwritten birthday cards instead of quick texts. She loved sunflowers, iced coffee, and taking long runs after school to shake off the day's chaos. Rachel wasn't the type of woman you'd expect to become a true crime headline. And maybe that's why this story hurts so much. In 2018, Rachel met Mark Keller at a mutual friend's birthday party. Mark was charming, funny in that self-deprecating way, and noticeably attentive. He asked her questions no one else did. Rachel later told her sister Emily, "It felt like he saw me in a way nobody else did." Mark was 31, a small business owner who ran a local gym. Muscular, confident, with that kind of charisma that drew people in. To outsiders, he looked like the complete package, hardworking, ambitious, and family-oriented. Their romance sparked quickly. Within weeks, they were inseparable. Weekend trips to Chicago, late-night FaceTimes, surprise flowers showing up at Rachel's classroom. To her friends, it seemed like the kind of whirlwind romance people dreamed about. But if you looked closely, if you slowed down the replay, you'd notice the cracks. Mark didn't like when Rachel hung out with her male co-workers. He would casually ask, "So, who was there?" after every staff happy hour. He started showing up to her runs, calling it support, though Rachel had always valued her solo time. Her best friend Kara noticed first. "Don't you think it's a little much? He's always around." Rachel brushed it off. "He just cares a lot. Isn't that what everyone wants?" Love makes us rewrite warning signs as devotion. Still, Mark had a magnetic pull. And like so many toxic love stories, the early warnings went unheard. For the first year, life seemed picture perfect. Rachel posted photos of their vacations on Instagram, holding hands on the beach, kissing under fireworks, smiling in front of Christmas trees. Her family adored him at first. He was polite, remembered everyone's names, and made an effort. Rachel's mom even said, "Finally, a man who treats you like you deserve." But there were moments, subtle, fleeting, when Rachel's face told a different story. A tightness in her smile. A look in her eyes, like she was performing happiness rather than living it. Still, who questions joy when it looks so real? By 2020, things began to change. Mark's concern about Rachel's co-workers turned into accusations. If she stayed late at school, he'd text her relentlessly. "Who are you with? Why aren't you answering? You better not be lying to me." Rachel confided in Emily, "He just gets jealous sometimes. But he always apologizes." And it was true. After every blow-up, Mark swung back the other way. Flowers, apologies, grand gestures. He called it passion. She called it love. But to those watching closely, it was control. By early 2021, Rachel was beginning to pull back. Her friends noticed she went out less. Her once bubbly personality dimmed. She laughed less, avoided questions more. In March, she made a quiet decision. She was done. But here's the thing about relationships built on control. When one person tries to leave, that's when the danger explodes. And for Rachel, saying the words, "It's over," would become the most dangerous decision of her life. On a rainy April evening, Rachel sat across from Mark at a local diner. Her hands shook as she stirred her coffee. She took a deep breath and whispered, "Mark, I can't do this anymore." He didn't yell. He didn't cry. He just smiled, too calmly, and said, "If you walk away from me, Rachel, you'll regret it." The storm was coming. Breaking up wasn't just hard. It was war. After that night at the diner, Mark flooded Rachel's phone with texts. At first, they were pleading. "Please just talk to me. I can't lose you." Then they turned angry. "You're throwing away everything we built. If I see you with someone else, I swear." Rachel blocked his number. But like many obsessed exes, he found ways around it. New numbers, fake social media accounts, even showing up at her school parking lot, waiting by her car. Her co-workers started to notice. One recalled, she'd look over her shoulder constantly, like she was expecting him to be there. Mark began showing up at Rachel's parents' house, trying to win them back over. "I just want what's best for her," he'd say. At first, her mom felt pity. But eventually, even she admitted, there's something not right about him. Rachel grew more isolated. She stopped posting online. She declined invites. She spent more time at home, locking doors, checking windows twice. But no matter how much she tried to create distance, Mark always seemed one step behind. On June 12, 2021, Rachel went out for drinks with Kara. It was the first time in months she allowed herself to feel free. They laughed, clinked glasses, reminisced. But as they walked to their cars, Kara noticed a familiar figure across the street, leaning against the lamppost, watching. It was Mark. Rachel froze. "I thought he didn't know I was here." Kara grabbed her arm. "This isn't normal anymore, Rach. You need help." That night, Rachel finally called the police. She filed for a restraining order. But here's the cruel truth. A piece of paper can't stop obsession. Sometimes, it only fuels it. The restraining order was approved, but Mark didn't disappear. He grew darker. Friends said his gym business started slipping. He wasn't eating, wasn't sleeping. One member recalled hearing him mutter, "If I can't have her, no one will." On June 28th, Rachel confided to Emily, "I feel like I'm living in a countdown. Like something bad is coming and I can't stop it." Her words would prove hauntingly true. July 3rd, 2021. Independence Day weekend. Fireworks lit up the skies across Michigan. Rachel went to a friend's barbecue, laughing for the first time in weeks. For a moment, it seemed like she was getting her life back. She drove home around 11 p.m., unaware that Mark's car had followed her from a distance. At 11:23 p.m., neighbors reported hearing a scream, followed by a loud crash near Rachel's townhouse. Then silence. The next morning, Rachel didn't show up at her family's July 4th gathering. Calls went unanswered. When her sister Emily stopped by the townhouse, she noticed the front door slightly ajar. Inside, the living room was overturned. And on the carpet, a trail of blood. Police arrived quickly. Inside Rachel's townhouse, they found signs of a violent struggle. Broken glass, overturned furniture, smeared blood. But Rachel was gone. For 48 hours, the community searched desperately. Flyers went up. Volunteers combed wooded areas. Social media filled with Rachel's smiling photos, begging for information. Then, on July 5th, a jogger discovered her body in a shallow grave near a state park, just miles from Mark's gym. The horror was real. Rachel had been beaten and strangled. Suspicion immediately turned to Mark. He denied everything. In police interviews he said, "I loved her. I'd never hurt her." But the evidence told a different story. Phone records placed him near Rachel's home the night she vanished. Security footage showed his car trailing hers after the barbecue. And in his gym's dumpster, investigators found Rachel's blood-stained scarf. Mark was arrested on July 7th. The trial gripped the community. Prosecutors painted a chilling picture. A man who couldn't handle rejection, whose obsession turned lethal. Witnesses testified to his stalking, his threats, his possessive behavior. The most haunting testimony came from Rachel's sister, Emily, who read Rachel's text from weeks before. "If something happens to me, it's Mark." Mark's defense tried to argue temporary insanity, claiming his love had driven him mad. But the jury didn't buy it. In October 2022, Mark Keller was found guilty of first-degree murder. He was sentenced to life in prison without parole. Rachel's family sat in the courtroom, tears streaming as the verdict was read. Justice, yes, but no real healing. Her students left drawings and letters at a makeshift memorial outside the school. One read, "I miss you, Miss Donovan. You were the best teacher ever." The town was left with a chilling truth. Rachel's murder wasn't random. It was preventable. This story is more than just tragedy, it's a warning. So often, red flags hide in plain sight. Jealousy disguised as love. Control disguised as protection. Rachel saw them. She even tried to escape. But like so many victims of obsessive partners, she underestimated the danger of leaving. Psychologists call it coercive control, a cycle where the abuser convinces you their behavior is love, while slowly tightening the grip. And when that grip is threatened, it can turn deadly. So ask yourself, would you have seen the danger signs, or been blinded by love too? If this story shook you, subscribe for more chilling true crime stories where love turns deadly. Because sometimes the scariest monsters don't lurk in the shadows. They smile across the dinner table and say, "I love you."